Right, let's continue where we were yesterday. Today, I'm recording this class pre-recorded in the nighttime, so you'll be watching the class. I'll make it a little bit shorter. What did we learn yesterday? We learned in Dvar Malchut that Yaakov, he laid down in the place of the Holy Temple and said that previously to that, 14 years, he did not lay down asleep because he was busy learning Torah. And 20 years after that, he didn't go to sleep because he was busy working in the house of Lavan. So where did he pick to go to sleep of all places? It says where the place where the holy temple was going to be, a holy place. So the Rebbe asks why. Well, how could he possibly do a thing like that? I mean, isn't that sacrilege? That's shameful. So the Rebbe said, no, it's not so. Exactly the opposite. What's the purpose of the Jewish people? The purpose of the Jewish people is the purpose of the world. Why did God create the world? Because he wants to be revealed here. And the only ones that can do that are human beings with free will. And that has fallen into the lot of the Jews. And you don't have to do it. They didn't have to do it, but Abraham decided that was the truth. And so every moment of his life, all he was interested in was revealing the truth in the world. It's like a doctor that's devoted to healing people. So he doesn't care about himself, doesn't care about anything. When he eats, when he sleeps, only what's totally necessary. All he's interested in is health, healing people, and he can't stand to see people sick. There are people like that. He can't stand to see. Or sometimes you get like in the movies, you get the Lone Ranger or whoever it is, someone's only interest is in, making peace in the world, Superman or somebody. That's all he thinks about all the time, day and night. And once in a while, he puts on different clothes and nobody recognizes him, but that's really who he is. His thing is to make peace in the world, to make good in the world, to make health in the world. Well, that's the job of the Jews. That's the fact. All these others are fictional, but this is the real fact. Maybe the doctor is not. I mean, there are doctors like that, but to make the world a perfect place, in order to do that, the only way to do is to reveal the creator in the creation. Just like a healthy person is, the soul is revealed in the body. So here we have the soul of the world is revealed in the world, but even more, the source of the soul, because the soul has all sorts of levels of levels of levels. And here we have the creator is revealed in his creation. And even more, according to Hasidut, that's the whole reason God made the creation. That's the reason why he made this physical world, so that we should do the impossible. And it can only be done through us, which that's a sort of a big mystery. But on the other hand, if you think about it, it's not such a big mystery. What's the mystery is that what did God want? This totally unusual thing that people would have free will and they would use their free will in order to not do what nature wants them to do, but whether to do what the creator of nature wants them to do. Sometimes this means using your nature properly. Sometimes it means defying your nature. Sometimes it means ignoring your nature. But however it is, the job of the Jewish people and really of all humanity is to use your free will in order to change nature, to make nature holy. Okay, God, so to speak, doesn't have free will in a way. God doesn't, he does, in the same way we do. God hasn't got temptations to do bad. Of course, God's will is free will. God can do whatever he wants to, but he hasn't got these hard choices to make a dwelling place in this low world. Low world is where there's hard choices. There's big temptations to do what's wrong. God hasn't got temptations to do what's wrong. So that's a whole big novelty that God made. Well, the first people to really realize this and to start doing what's right totally was Abraham, and after him his son Yitzchak, and afterwards Yaakov. Now, Yaakov, the third of the fathers, he really brought it into the physical world. We're going to learn more about that in Torah, but he really brought it into the physical world. So that's what we got over here. Yaakov is leaving this holy, peaceful place called Beersheba, which is in Israel, and he goes to a place called Haran, which is outside the land of Israel, and it's terrible. And in order to, well, what's his goal? What's his goal? The goal is to make God revealed here, and that was symbolized by him putting his head on the same level as his feet, because a normal person will think that your head is higher than your feet, so he won't want to have put so much attention to his feet. Your main attention is in your head, not your feet, which is not the case. The Holy Temple was a building, bricks, to show that God wants to be revealed in this physical world, that the head is no better than the feet. It's all just part of the creation. And in some ways, the feet is even better. In other words, the feet representing this physical world, this is where God really wants to be revealed. You have to have a head in order to do it. So Yaakov, by putting his head and his feet on the same level, as essentially what he did was reveal the creator of the head and the feet in the world. In other words, this level of godliness where the head and the feet are equal, that's the whole essence of what the Holy Temple is. So that's why he laid down in the temple. Okay. And now the question is why it says that also he put rocks around his head to protect him from the wild animals. So the question is why? Why did he do that? We learned a sikha. By the way, you can look on. We learned a sikha. It's on our YouTube. Why in the world did he do that? Okay. So now we understood why he laid down. Good, because he wanted a level of godliness where the head and the feet are the same. According to this, we can also understand why he took stones and he put them under his head. Let me see if I'm recording this. Yes. And he laid down on this place. But Yosem Rosh said that he put him around his head. Rashi says that he made some sort of like a little fence around his head because he was afraid of the wild animals. And it says that the stones fought with one another. And they said, I want Yaakov to put his head on me, the stones. So immediately what God did is he made them into one big stone, right? And that's what it says, Evan Hazot, it says this stone. Because the language of the sentence is seemingly contradictory. In the beginning, it says there was a lot of stones, and then it says that he put his head on the stone. So that's the way it explains it. In the beginning, there were a lot of stones, and they argued which one should be under his head. And so God, in order to solve this argument, so he made the stones into one big stone. What's going on over here? Even though you can ask a question, first of all, what does it mean to make a fence around his head? The animals can just jump over but first of all, let's say the animals can't jump over. First of all, the animals, they can attack the rest of his body. So some people explain that really he put this fence of stones all around his whole body. He brings down this explanation. Who is it? I can't remember what the name of it was. Was it Tov Tam or someone here? Divrei David. Huh? I think called Divrei David. Muscular David. This is from, I think maybe from Rebbe Yonatan Ebeshitz, I think, on the Torah. Anyway, I'm not sure. Yud Aleph. Maria's Yud Ebeshitz. Could be. Okay. Yeah. So, in any case, so it brings down that Yaakov really put the stones around his whole body. That's what this David explains. Therefore, it says a marzav. A marzev is like a sort of like a trough. You put animals in front of an animal. That's a shame. It's like a sort of a pipe that goes around that comes out from a pipe that comes out from a bigger place. And so it's only when there's a mazchila, there is some sort of a big water trough or whatever, or a water ditch, and it comes out of it, this sort of a pipe that comes out of it. That's a marzev. Okay, in any case, so really he put this around his whole body. And that's what the rocks were fighting, which rock would be closest to his head. That's another way of explaining it. Okay, good. Maybe that explains a little bit, but it doesn't make any sense. Why does the sentence say that he put it under his head? Number one, why under his head? Just say he put rocks all around him, right? If that's what he did. Number two, what is explaining? What does it mean that he gets saved by means of a by a little fence that he put around his head, a little sort of a, what do you call it, a water trough or something around his head, the animals can just jump over. But what is the point? What is it trying to tell us? So according to what we said, Yishlon, we can say like this: Hasidut. Again, what was Yaakov, Jacob? Jacob was a general person. The reason that Jacob is in the Torah is not because the Torah couldn't find any more interesting stories to tell than these stories about Jacob. The reason is because Jacob was making come he was making come closer. There's a good word, I can't think of it. He was well, I just can't think of this word. Anyway, he was making come closer the goal of the creation. Yaakov was amazing how the word just slipped my mind. It was making the goal of creation come closer. Yaakov, one person, huh? Just like one person discovered electricity and one person discovered, I don't know if that's true, but let's say it is. One person discovered the penicillin, one person that discovered atomic power, one person that, so one person, right, he is able to fix up the whole world. So Yaakov, everything that he did is a big lesson to us on something that we're supposed to do. What exactly we're supposed to do. So that's what it says. Yaakov taking these stones, putting them under his head. This is a spiritual service. He drew down into the physical world the soul, the light of the soul, with a tremendous power. That's the whole thing of stones. Stones like a big stone wall that shows firmness, power. So he took something that was very, very powerful to protect his head. When it is revealed in this physical world, true existence, namely the soul. And what is it? Let's just take a simple example in this world. Love. A person that loves his family, so he's willing to suffer things that a normal person wouldn't suffer, right? Just for the sake of love, for the sake of power, for the sake of this. Okay, but let's take a good example. Right? Power is a nice love. So we see that if a person has this value, that the whole world is not threatening to him anymore. He doesn't care about what's going to happen. He'll risk his life, right, to save his wife, his children, his parents. When the soul is revealed, the spiritual, then the physical is less dominant. Huh? What if the source of the soul is revealed? So then what happens is the concealment of the physical world hasn't got any real say over him. It has no effect. So therefore, that's what it means. The animals cannot attack Yaakov. Yaakov surrounded his head with powerful certainty that God exists. That's the stones, that's the rocks. When a person has that attitude, then the physical world has no effect on him. Like I brought the example before about Daniel in the lion's den. You know, he was so certain that God existed, that the lions didn't have any effect on him. The lions felt it. It changed the whole world. Because the place where the soul is, the godly soul, is in the brains and the head. That's what it says in the Tanya explained. And from there it spreads out to all the limbs of the body. It's in the 9th chapter of the Tanya, right? Let's have a look and see. 96. Here we go. 9th chapter of the Tanya. So therefore, the main power of the soul is the brains and the head, from his head. So therefore, he had to protect his head. But how did he protect it with these stones? Where did he get this power from? He got it from his godly soul. The godly soul is mostly in the head, in person's consciousness and his awareness. That's what Rashi says in the beginning. These stones argued one another, and they said, I want Yaakov to put his head on me. What did it mean the stones had an argument? I thought we said the stones is a powerful connection to God. What type of an argument did they have? Like we explained that these stones that were around his head had an argument with the stones which were around his body. And the meaning was that each one said, I want Yaakov, this holy man, to put his head on me. In other words, what does it mean? That this power that we said, this attitude of strong, immovable connection to the creator of the universe and certainty that the creator of the universe is really the king of the universe, is this holiness in the part of the body of Jacob was the same power as this certainty in the head of Jacob, the place of his godly soul. Right? What does it mean? We said before, the physical world has godliness in it, in some ways even more and certainly equal to the spiritual worlds. Let's again take another example. When there was the Holy Temple, so everyone in Israel would go up 3 times a year to this building. Even the highest, holiest people, they were secondary to this building, the Holy Temple. And it was just made of bricks, stones. So the question is, what's really higher? The brain, the godly soul, or the physical world? Well, both of them have their good qualities to it, right? The world, that's the purpose. On the other hand, the brain, without that, you can't realize this purpose. So that was the argument between the stones. Where's the real power? In order to reveal the power of this connection to God, that's the stones. So it was equal. The head was equal of Jacob to Jacob's head was equal to his body. The ultimate, representing the ultimate unity of the upper worlds, the head, and the lower worlds. And finally, because there was no way to really resolve this argument, because by God, the physical world is certainly as important, if not more, than the head. Without the head, you can't reveal it. That's why God gave the Torah. The Torah is understanding. So in order to resolve this argument, God made it into one big stone by means of the revelation of the essence of God. Therefore, Jacob laid down on this place. Then he made his head and his feet equal. So if Yaakov was at that level where he felt the essence of God in his whole being, and what's the essence of God? That God wants to be revealed in the whole world. When God is revealed in the whole world, then there's not only the animals, but even people. There won't be any more destructive forces in the world. Then certainly there's no place for the wild animals, exactly the opposite. Since the revelation of the essence of God is made specifically by means of this physical world, it's even that the revealed godliness in the higher worlds, this is because just it's higher because of the revealed aspects of God, but not the essence of God. Really, the whole business was just created. All these upper worlds were only created for this low physical world. This physical world is called Olam, Helen. Here, godliness is concealed. But the essence of God is not concealed. We just don't feel it. Therefore, it's drawn down the essence of God, which is not limited to being up or down. Therefore, the holiness, the ultimate holiness was by means of stones. Stones are minerals. Minerals have no thought. And that's what it means that afterwards he made into a matzeva. He made it into like a pillar. And this pillar eventually came the place of the Holy Temple, a physical low place, a dwelling for God's essence. as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in. And let's learn now the Dvar Malchut. We'll get to that in 1 minute. Let's turn this off first. Stop the share.